What is up, maniacs? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to WMMAnia. This is episode 47. I'm your host, as always, Drake Riggs, here to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts when it comes to the ladies specifically. I hope everybody is doing well. We have a pretty solid lineup of action here as we get back in the swing of things. For the new calendar year of 2023, we'll be recapping UFC Vegas 67 from the past weekend. Just one fight that went down there. It is Tactical Tuesday, of course, as well. We have plenty of news, lots of matchups that have been announced in the past week, ranging from flyweight to featherweight, which is always a fun topic. We'll get to that. Invicta FC 51 goes down tomorrow night. We'll be previewing that. UFC 283 also this Saturday. So plenty of interesting topics to get into. But before we do that, you guys, appreciate you so much for tuning in, whether you are a recurring viewer or a new person to the channel. We appreciate you all the same. But don't forget to visit WMMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. We got you covered. You can follow us, like, share, and subscribe on the video specifically here. Subscribe on all the platforms. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a gosh darn thing if you so fancy. But at least hit that like button. We would really appreciate it. It goes a long way. Helps out the old algorithm. Gets us seen better if you aren't willing to do all the other stuff. So either way, I appreciate you all the same. Just for tuning in. Means a lot. Always a good time each and every week. So how is everybody doing here? Sintro, good to see you. Rain bringing it as usual. The Thiago Moises of making bad choices. The Oven St. Preux of wedding special. GQ. The Augusto Sakai. Okay. You always sneak in the last one a little bit not so PG, but that's all right. I mean, we're not a PG show, but I try not to go that route too often if I can help it, depending on the pun. Anyway, so what is up, you guys? James, I'm seeing here. Pat, HK Wrong Rose lost to fair and square. They destroyed Carla. Okay, that's fine. Why would she need the UFC to do this effect? Should be anyone put it for a reason. All right, well, I don't know. I don't know what exactly you're asking me there, James. What is up, Alvin? Let's all have a great conversation about the sport of MMA. Appreciate and not hate. There you go. Appreciate, don't hate. That's the slogan. Let's love all the fighters who step out of the cage. There you go. Rain says too vulgar. I mean, I guess you'd be the judge. Like I said, I tend to not. I try not to go there on these streams. We can do that on my channel, but I like to do my best to be a little bit. Try to be as mature as I can be. Even though I'm not. I don't think I am, but yeah. So, all right, you guys. Well, I guess we... Oh, okay. Well, I guess we can tackle this topic real quick. Before we get to the recap, as James is referring to the fight companion from last Friday for One Championship, which I did not... I don't know what I was going with. I thought it was on Thursday. If you guys remember on the show here last week, for some reason I thought that it was a Thursday show, but it was actually Friday. Pretty solid show. Either way, I guess to address that real quick, we did have the just ended up with one female fight between Stamp and Supergirl or Wonder Girl, whatever the nickname that she goes by. I think it's Supergirl, right? Yeah, that was that. I mean, it's not on the lineup here, like I said, because it wasn't an MMA fight, but that was a pretty poor decision, I think. So anyway, we talked about some Whaley stuff as we got our good old trolls and spammers over there, but James is highlighting that they said she needs a favorable matchup in China. and the UFC would set that up for her. Respectful, I think that's incorrect. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that's necessary at all. Like, the perspective I think that they were coming from is like, of course, ideally, Whaley would win business wise. It'd be good to keep her as champion and get her and have her win in China, but I don't think you need to go out of your way to make to have her fight somebody like Angela Hill. No disrespect to Angie, but like somebody down in the rankings that makes no sense whatsoever. Which, if you're to think of like favorable matchups, if you want to do the most favorable, it'd be somebody who doesn't deserve a title shot, right? So, I mean, Rain, of course, it's fair. You can assume, you can, predict. I don't necessarily see anyone beating Whaley right now, but that doesn't mean Rose is the most favorable matchup. That's definitely not the case. But yeah. Rio says Stamp should have lost that. Yes, she definitely should have, but understandable since Supergirl didn't fight to her ability. I don't know. I mean, Supergirl looked pretty good. She looked pretty good, especially the first 2 rounds. Like I said, scoring that fight as a whole, I thought it was closer than round by round. I said that on the fight night. And James says, like, Hendo versus Bisping 2 situation. That was definitely a favor to Hendo, to give him a very undeserved title shot, but a favorable matchup for Bisping for sure. Very unique situation. Crazy that happened in hindsight, but Bisping got it done. So, all right, guys, then let's get on to the recap. We had just one fight this past weekend. Interesting one. Very curious to get your guys' thoughts on this one, specifically in terms of the scores. I think that from what I saw, it seemed like most people agreed on who won here, but that wasn't the official winner, as Rocky P keeps on rolling. Raquel Pennington defeated Ketlin Vieira via split decision, 29-28, 28-29, and then a 29-28 again in her favor. So, I mean, unsurprisingly, this was a pretty darn competitive fight. I knew this matchup. I mean, Raquel Pennington is always like a pretty tough matchup for everybody, I guess, except for like Nunes, at least in the last so many years. But she's been obviously on a roll lately. Takedown defense still on point. That was kind of the big thing that stood out to me was, like I've said, and as you if you really highlight it and notice, Raquel has she has some of the most underappreciated takedown defense in like, I don't know if I want to say the whole sport, but among the women for sure. And Ketlin obviously went for more some judo type throws, wizard type throws than anything. She didn't really go for any traditional single doubles though, which was a little bit, I think obviously hurt her. I think it would have helped to at least threaten with those, but she didn't. She just kind of went for some more momentum types of takedowns and throws, which did not pay off, and kind of hard to hit Rocky with those in general anyway. But as you can see here by the numbers, total strikes, Ketlin did outland her by, about 30 there, 34 to be specific. Round by round, Ketlin with the first just by 2, second round by 10, and third round by a good margin as well. So I scored this fight for Ketlin. I went 1-3, 10-9 for Ketlin in the first and the third. Second round, I think you could even argue, obviously the stats would support that as well. She had the control time in every round, just 13 measly little seconds there in the first round. Didn't really matter. There were, I think, a lot of very nice combinations from Rocky. I think she was putting some things together very nicely throughout every round, really. But Ketlin just, what was it? What fight were we talking about recently? I'm not sure which one it was, but it just, you could kind of tell that her shots seemed like the bigger ones, right? Like more effective. I remember she landed a good knee there, I think at the start of I think it was the third round after they were kind of exchanging. It seemed like she staggered, or at least, staggered. I mean, hurtish, a little bit hurt, mildly hurt. Rocky. It was maybe the most significant point of the fight. I feel like there was a moment like that in the first round as well, maybe. I'm forgetting specifically when it happened. But ultimately, like, I think Ketlin's shots, she did absorb plenty, right? I think the combinations, Rocky kind of changed things together a bit more, but Vieira ultimately landed the better kind of power shots, the more impactful stuff, which is kind of what you look for, the damage. And, obviously Rocky was pretty busted up. It was close, though. It was very close. Um, the control that she had here, it was very neutral position, over unders against the cage, jockeying for position, like not significant control, not very, not dominant positions, right? Just kind of, like I said, the neutral area, the neutral type of control. You know what I mean? So that doesn't ever really count very much at all. It doesn't count at all unless it's pretty even. And even as the third round was, I still think Ketlin didn't quite even need that to win the round, but it's still, I guess you could say, helped, depending on how you felt about it before those 3 minutes, kind of. But, excuse me. Oh, tired today. When am I not tired? This was an upset, though, for sure. I mean, I don't. Rocky was a slight underdog from when we were previewing, and ends up pulling it off, though. So, I mean, honestly, like she's pretty clearly the number one contender now at bantamweight. As crazy as it kind of is to say, because we probably never thought that was going to happen again after her first and only title shot. But now she's won 5 in a row and just beats arguably the top contender. Like, Raquel she's it. She's the next in line. Do I think it would go much different? No, not really. I think she'll do a little bit better against Nunes, but yeah, kind of crazy. And I mean, good for her. Like, I always enjoy watching Rocky fight, but never would have guessed. Never would have guessed. So, as for our ratings here, I'll get to the comments here in a second. I see you guys in there. I think this was fine. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit upsetting to see the Ketlin, ever since she just even though she's gotten back on track since the knockout loss to Aldana, I think that has just permanently changed her, right? Like, she just has not been the exact same since then. And you can argue that she's done some things better, but I just feel like there's maybe a lack of urgency in some important moments that has kind of hurt her. And you could argue that in this one. Obviously, didn't hurt her in the last fight with Holly, but the Yana fight, that's one clearly that hurt her because she lost that one. So as for the score, again, it was fine. I'd give it a 6 out of 10 for me. I think that's perfect. Like, just 5 or 6 range, just a fine fight. It was fine. But I was intrigued by kind of, as it went on, maybe a little bit more so, with the closeness and competitiveness of it, and it being a very important fight. So, that's why it goes over the 5 for me. But I had nothing wrong with this. It was a fine, just a fine, solid 6 for me. Performance wise, Raquel's performance. Even though I think Ketlin won, even though I scored for her, I think I would probably say that Rocky still had a better performance. Slightly, ever so slightly. And I guess I'd probably give her the same. I might give her a 6 as well. This is kind of how the fight was, but that's because of how kind of even it was at the same time. So, very interesting one. Very interesting. But all right, where are we? Oh, it says you couldn't see the trolls last week. How do I block them if they show up? I'm assuming, Alvin, that means that they're getting clever here. They're getting clever. I'm assuming that means that they blocked you, because I know one of them who's been coming around here said that they blocked all of you guys. So then I'm the only one who sees their stuff, which is like, thanks for that, I guess. But yeah, I'm assuming that's why you can't see them when that happens, Alvin, which is pretty hilarious that they would go to that length. But all right, Ghost has an important take about this one. We'll get to that here. Ryan says he thought this was close, and you know the rule that Ghost and that Iron Ghosts have. Or yeah, not a robbery. Definitely wasn't a robbery either way. But I saw mostly Ketlin votes. Ketlin scores in her favor. Ghost says he's not going to argue the decision, but Rocky is going to have to think of a better ideas than she did here. Sancho says he thought Rocky won no problem here. 1 and 2 for Rocky. Okay, interesting. Ghost says, and it's not good that Ketlin lost this since her ideas would have given Nunes a ton of trouble. Well, of course. Yeah, she wants the title shot. More specifically, her jab to the body as Rocky stepped in, since Nunes only knows how to plot forward to overwhelm fighters with power. Also, Ketlin had a nice dipping jab, which you all know is Amanda's biggest weakness. And I liked that Ketlin was alternating between the two, dipping jab and the body jab. Yeah, definitely some good change-ups in that regard. MMA Art, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Says Nunes versus Rocky 2 needs to happen next. Agreed. It makes too much sense. Rocky's on 5-5 win streak, already has a win over Ketlin and Irene. Yeah, people forget about that. And she was injured when she fought Nunes. The rematch will be different. Like I said, I think she will definitely be more competitive, but I still don't see her winning. And I've said this before, says Ghost, if Ketlin integrates those ideas in a comprehensive game plan, Ketlin could give Nunes trouble. I completely agree. I've been saying that for a while as well. He says Ghost says Rocky had one look, and that was to switch stance and blitz forward in a line. If she's fighting Nunes for title again, she won't do well if that's her only idea. Agreed. Oh, a 3 from Rain. He was not a fan. James, a 2. Repetitive striking. Rio says rating is low. I'm in the 4, maybe 4.5 range. So dull moments in between. Right, yeah, like I said, the clinch control. As James is naming the person. Yes, just trying to get to me, but he is not aware of my rugged exterior, if you will, when it comes to that nonsense. Jimmy says, in all honesty, why is it wrong for us to say bad things about bad fights? Mainly the women's fights, because like we discussed before, most, not all, are of a low standard. State of the well, good to see you, Jimmy. It's better late than never. But never said it's wrong to say bad things about bad fights necessarily. But, just not to be slanderous or, negative, offensive, like, talking down on people. Like, don't do that. You can still be constructive and critique things without being a dickhead, pretty much. That's always been the line of thinking. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But anyway, that was our only fight at UFC Vegas 67. Because, what do you know? Sijara Eubanks missed weight again for a flyweight bout. The story is old as time. And the fight with Cachoeira got canceled. So Priscilla lives on. How does she do it? How does she do it? She avoids takedowns once again. This would have been the one, I think. I think it would have been the one. But Sijara, there's something about Priscilla. I think she does have the voodoo. I said it last week. She must have some voodoo on all of her opponents. I don't get it. Not that Sijara wouldn't have had problems anyway, regardless of who she's fighting, but just kind of insane when you really think about it. So yeah, I think that we very well could have seen the last of Sijara Eubanks. I don't know how you continue to give her shots at flyweight, at least. Like, she has to just don't even bother. Just keep her at bantamweight if you're going to keep her around at this point. Sintro asks, is Sarge a good fighter? Seriously, 7. Well, records can be deceiving. We remember old Mark Hunt, but yes, exactly. That's exactly. Would it be wrong to dismiss her with that kind of record? Yeah, of course. Uh, I mean, at a point, Sajara, like the Ultimate Fighter, she proved that she was one of the best flyweights at the time. Like that was very surprising, and she did very well at that time. She's clearly fallen off since then. Only gotten older, as everybody does, and then is having these weight issues. So she's not as good as she used to be, clearly, but still capable of beating people like, like Cachoeira. And James says wasn't Sarge supposed to get a title shot when she was 2-2. I don't think she was. She definitely wasn't 2-2. It was more like I think it was 4-2. But it made sense because she won the show. She didn't win the show, but she made it to the finals, missed weight, and fucked up her opportunity to fight for the title in the first place. That was the whole thing. She was supposed to fight Nico Montano, which my goodness, how crazy! What a saga! Both of those fighters. What a journey. My goodness. Nico Montano, I wonder what's going on with her now. Haven't heard nothing since the release. Man, that feels like an alternate universe, doesn't it? The start of the flyweight division in the UFC. Man, that did not pan out how they wanted it to. That's for sure. But 4-2, really, that just shows how bad flyweight wasn't. I disagree. With both of those, James. If you beat the best people, like it, I don't think that shows. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can see where you're coming from, but I don't think so. I think she looked great on her run and was able to beating the people that she did was definitely impressive. And flyweight is definitely not bad now. Flyweight is once again very good, especially globally, James. Like before the UFC, flyweight was maybe the best division in the world. And then it obviously kind of dropped off a little bit there for a bit, but now it's very solid. It's very good right now. Ghost disagrees, but okay, all right, whatever. With that in mind, let's get to Tactical Tuesday before we go to the news. Yeah, so as you guys know, I don't really have a proper spot for it. So I'm just going to throw in Tactical Tuesday whenever it seems best. And this week, it seems best right here since we have two events to preview. But let's get it going. Let's get it going here. Oop, whoops, I'm not trying to invite somebody. Wrong button. Tactical Tuesday number 6. Full screen, please. There we go. Get your copyright disclaimer out and ready as we get rolling. Rolling. The tactic we focus on today is the idea of using leg entanglements to create movement. Brandon Royval demonstrates this idea beautifully. Snell postures up by bringing his knee up while Royval attacks an omoplata. Snell pops his arm free from the omoplata. Royval Gable grips the basing leg. The current ADCC trend is to attack the upper body when the opponent stays low in order to expose the lower body as they are forced to stand or posture up. Royval attacks with a calf slicer. Royval uses the calf slicer to break posture and base to sweep. While the wall walk is the most common way of getting up, do you think using leg entanglements to create movement in the middle of the cage can be a viable tactic to help fighters get back up? Absolutely. Yeah, you can't. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Like that was a great example. Whenever people kind of engage in those types of submission attempts, if you will, or maneuvers to try and force a submission, people will try to get out of there typically, and then it'll result in stand-ups. So Yeah, if you're not able to, obviously, wall walk, that is a great method to try and do so. But I will say, though, Ghost, as great as that was, enjoyed that thoroughly. I did not watch it beforehand. We have to, since this is WMMAnia, we do have to get at least some footage or some focus on the women there. Please, for next time. Just, you got to understand where I'm coming from here. We need to, because that Tactical Tuesday, of course, it can apply to every situation, but if we can get examples of, the ladies specifically here, that's what the show is all about. So otherwise, no problemo. As Rio says, are these going to be long? No, they've been nice little appetizers, if you will, for whatever's coming after. So there we go. There we go. As Jimmy says, he likes his grappling breakdowns. Maybe he can use this when he rolls. Yeah, exactly. Ghost says Habib and Islam use the wall walk against fighters. Better idea to go in the middle of the cage to stand up against them. Against those guys, I don't know. That's a scary place to be. I mean, they do a lot of their best damage against the cage, right? When you think about it, at least they have. And yes, I know, that's exactly the point here, but you get where I'm coming from. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question though about to go in the middle of the cage with them. I mean, it's just you don't want to be on the ground, period, with them in any spot. So that's what you should avoid. But yeah. MA Art says, I feel so bad for Nico and GDR. I wouldn't want to fight Valentina and Cyborg too. Yeah. I never quite. I mean, this is a great time to talk about this since you mentioned it, MA Art, because of the obviously Ngannou situation and the narrative Dana tried to spin about Ngannou being afraid of Jones, which is hilarious. Very laughable. I've never been one to buy into a fighter being. Fighters are not afraid of other fighters, okay? Like, this is just, it's a silly thing to say. Like, think about, I mean, you can be afraid to fight, I guess. Like, Donald Cerrone famously always said he'd be scared every time he went to go and fight. But he isn't specifically afraid of certain people, and he still went and did it. So, like, there are a lot of people, I know, a lot of fighters who have that feeling, but they're not afraid of one specific person, especially if they're at the highest level. Like, Jermaine, I think she made herself look worse than she needed to at that time. But like, she had a solid chance against Cyborg. There was no reason for her to be afraid. She just sounded very like she was making a ton of excuses with the steroids and the hand injury and whatnot. So that was kind of a mess. But I also partially blame the UFC for fucking up featherweight as they have done. Nico's, I think, well, we know now that she obviously just had, massive issues consistently making 125. Just could not do that. So I don't necessarily think she was afraid either, especially in that position, becoming champion the way she was. Like, you want to hang on to that for as long as you can, get the title fights and make the money. You don't get the money if you don't fight. So she was going to do it. She just physically could not. But yes, of course, those were obviously not pretty tough matchups for each of those champions. Each of them. So yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on there from Tactical Tuesday to Zen News. But first, what do we have here? Ghost with some comments here. Never too bad a wait time. Well, I don't want to get into that. But yeah. Anyway, not to get off track. Let's see here as we get rolling. with the new cycle. Sorry, guys, discombobulated. Now let's answer this real quick. Side notes. We'll go off the rails for this one. I know I need to do another. I need to do another Q&A on my own channel so we can talk about all the other stuff in the world, which is fun. But Rio's asking how far am I in my Hitman project? Yes, my rerun through, my replay of the Hitman franchise. I played last night. I am at, where did I get to? What was the last thing I did? I'm on Absolution now, Rio. So I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the middle of the whole franchise, the transitional period, if you will, between trilogies, because obviously it's the fourth game. And I just did the second Chinatown part where I did the strip club mission, the strip club hit, and then you have to go back to Chinatown, take out the guys who are coming for Birdie. So yeah, that's where I am right now. But I'm trying to breeze through that one. It's not as enjoyable as it was the first so many times I played it, but yeah. Oh, Ghost is just saying that no one is ducking Valentina. Yeah, I don't think I would say that anyone's ever really ducked her either. That's fair. Yeah. As MAR says, do you think that if Valentina was selected to fight Ronda Rousey in the first ever female UFC fight instead of Liz, you think Ronda would have won? At that time, probably. It would have been interesting. I mean, Valentina at that time, I don't even know how many fights she had, but it wasn't a lot. She was still pretty heavily I mean, obviously she developed her ground game a lot as time went on, but I think it'd be hard not to still assume Ronda would probably get that done at that time. At that time, right? Like maybe Valentina beats her a year later, who knows? But yeah. Yes, Rio. I remember. Well, we'll have to talk more about it on a different stream because I do definitely enjoy talking about my video games and whatnot. And this is one of my favorites. One of my favorites. So, yeah. Now, this makes no sense, Ghost. I know you're joking, but I think that there would be a finish in that fight no matter what. Definitely not a decision. Anyway, let's get to the news now. Let's get to our ratings, right? You guys rate the matchups that have been made, how much they make sense, all that stuff. And yes, Rio, I do like your comment. So we will kick things off here. The first bit of news to take care of. I'm surprised to see this, specifically because I thought this fighter was not in the UFC anymore, at least done, maybe fighting. But what do you know? The former Veronica Macedo is back. She's Veronica Hardy now because she just married Dan Hardy. She's taking on Juliana Miller, flyweight fight, UFC 286, March 11th in London, England. All right. There we go. Killer Miller, the last Ultimate Fighter winner, gets her first fight after winning the Ultimate Fighter. Defeated Brogan Walker Sanchez. And Veronica Hardy looks to get back in the win column after some rough last so many fights. What I think it was, she's 1-3, I think, in her last 4, 2-fight losing streak. Just what has had some very interesting matchups, at bantamweight. We all remember the Bea Malecki one, which was a crazy fight, but she looked very small because she is, pretty size-wise, not the biggest, still like pretty small for flyweight even, but can latch on, throw up some crazy submissions every now and then, has some pretty fun kicks. Pretty wild, though, regardless of that. Juliana Miller is going to, once again, have the size advantages, at least in terms of length in this one. And has a great ground game herself. So I like this fight. I like this fight a lot. Actually, I think it's pretty good position-wise for each of them. Miller's sophomore appearance, Hardy coming back. after it's been a while since her last fight. I want to say like 2019, 2020-ish maybe. I don't remember when it was. But, a very compared to who she was fighting, not I don't know how much of a step down I would say, but either way, I mean, Miller is a tough matchup. It is a tough matchup for her, but one that on paper makes sense, in terms of new to the UFC, still pretty inexperienced, but she is improving and growing as a fighter a lot in a quick period of time. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that this should be a fun one. I have no issues with it. In London, that obviously makes sense. That's fun for me. This is um this is a solid 6, maybe 6.5 even. I'm not sure if I still am undecided if we want to do the half scores, you guys, if you want to throw in the 0.5 there, but I think that's more of a lean, but I'd go with 6 on this one. There's no issues whatsoever with the matchmaking here. Stylistically, I think this should be very fun, unless Hardy's like super rusty and just comes in not, not up to par how we've seen her in the past. But I believe she should be fine. So I'm good with it. I'm good with that one. It's a 6 for me. I'll stick to it. But all right. So before we go to the next one, I want to read the comments and we'll continue to breeze through because I have some thoughts as I do on the next one, and you'll see what I mean by that. But yeah. Okay, Ghost. Now you're just kind of hating, and it's pretty clear. Like, let's be honest. Stylistically, she would finish Ronda. That's pretty safe to say. Stylistically, like, and I mean, she's been finishing. It was aside from the Santos fight, so I don't know what you're talking about. She's not the ultimate finisher. That was definitely blown out of proportion. But I mean, Valentina literally finished Murphy and Andrade right before Santos. So now you're just hating a little bit. I have my art. Saying to Juliana Miller. James says, is V Hardy a good nickname for Veronica? No. No. This is like, I get what you guys have been doing, and I like the Booker T comparisons the last couple weeks or whatever, but like it's just her name without just shortened, like that's not necessarily a nickname. I mean, it can be, but I don't know. It's not a good one for her, I don't think. MAR says Veronica's last performance wasn't so good. She gassed so quick, which was surprising considering she finished Polyana Viana. So she would work on her cardio, should work on her cardio against Cardio Machine Juju. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well said there, Art. Good having you here today. Great. I agree. Great. Well said. Jumbo, what is up? Greetings. How do you seek out interviews? So what I typically do is I will just reach out to the fighters. If the fighter I can't get a hold of too easily, then we go to the manager, depending on who it is, of course. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's different for everybody, Jumbo, but typically try to go directly to the source. And Ghost says he studied the style. She's a great striker, but her whole thing is to outpoint you. I'm not disagreeing with that. Like, I think that's clear. That's why I say stylistically, if she's going to finish somebody, it's because of maybe more so the other person, than she is. And we know how Ronda fought. So I think it would have been tailor-made for something similar to Holly. For sure. But anyway, all right, let's get to this is a great fight, but there's some confusion around it. So I'm sure you guys will be annoyed by this as well. Because at featherweight, we have on the April 22nd UFC Fight Night, Carol Hossa is taking on Norma Dumont. I mean, this is great. Like I love this fight a lot. I mean, it's a bittersweet one. I like both fighters, and I don't really want to see one of them lose, but this is like a good, logical bantamweight matchup. But it's at fucking featherweight. God damn it. Oh man, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, uh UFC continues to play with Norma pretty much. Like, tell her, all right, we're gonna put you at bantamweight now. The featherweight division's going away. Oh no, we're gonna have you back at featherweight. Just this complete juggling act. Carol Host is not gonna stick around at 145. She has had no issues with weight. I don't think she's ever fought at featherweight before. Not that it will be a problem or anything, but she is a rising contender at bantamweight. Norma Dumont can be. I'm pretty sure she is ranked at bantamweight, but they keep having her fight at featherweight. Like this. This is exactly what Connor versus Cowboy was. A lightweight fight at welterweight. This is a bantamweight fight at featherweight. That's all it is. Like, if that's what they want to do with Norma, is like have her climb the bantamweight ranks, but have all her fights at featherweight for whatever reason. Okay, sure. Let's make some weird exception. But like, just the lack of consistency and clinging to life, I guess, for this train wreck of a non-existent division after 6 years, 7 years now. However long it's been, my God, it drives me insane. It really does. So man, I I don't know. I feel like that shouldn't play too much into the ranking of this, but it does hurt a little bit because it's so dumb because of how dumb it is. As I really like this matchup. I think it's a tough one for both of them in many different ways. It's logical. It's just not logical at featherweight. So, with that in mind, I think it'll take a point away. So it'll be about a 6 for me, but it should be a 7 if that makes sense. Um, yeah. Just like, when will it end? When will it end? I don't know. I don't know if it ever will at this point. I really don't. We could have atom weights, but instead, I mean, we could have atom weights and the fake featherweight division. We really could, but not sure. Not sure. Trust the UFC to do that anyway. So yeah. All right, let's move on from that then. Always love me some Norma Dumont. That's for sure. As we drop to the strawweight division, we'll close out the new cycle with 3, count them, 3 strawweight fight announcements. And this is a good, big one here for all the way out. Well, I guess that was an April fight too, wasn't it? Which is even sillier. Like, last thing, you give Norma that much time to cut to bantamweight if she needs it and adjust her body. But instead, you do it at featherweight. Like, oh my God. Ugh. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. All right. Anyway, strawweight, like I said, Luana Pinheiro is back. You love to see it. She's taking on Michelle Watterson Gomez. UFC 287 on April 8th. You know, this very well, I feel like we are very close to seeing the end of the karate hottie. And, I'm not saying that's what I want. You never want to see a fighter go necessarily, or especially get cut. I don't think she'll get cut ever, but it's been quite a career for her. This is a tough matchup. Luana, she's been out for a good while now. Well, she hasn't fought since the crazy Randa fight, right? And then was supposed to fight Penne, but that got canceled. Now here we are. Good name, good matchup. Pay-per-view card, UFC 287, April 8th. No location yet. I think that's they're looking at Brooklyn for that one. Step in the right direction. New blood versus the old guard a little bit, right? Yeah, I think this is a good one. Great one, at least in terms of matchmaking. I'm fine with it, completely fine. Good to see kind of, Luana back for sure, but then the rising contenders, face some of the more established names to try and make the climb even further. And I mean, a pretty. It's like I think this is a very perfect test for after the time away, and then in terms of showing kind of where you can be, if that makes sense. But yeah, Luana has always been very fun to watch. Very dangerous in all areas. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it. This one's a solid 7 for me. I have really no issues whatsoever with this. I think it should be fun, maybe more so from the intrigue of Luana coming back. She's always been pretty fun to watch. Grappling exchanges can be pretty fun between these two for sure. It'll be interesting to see who kind of initiates there. I mean, Luana's pretty. She used her judo very defensively in that Randa fight, and obviously packed some power in her hands. So see if she can close the distance and whatnot. But I like that one. Solid 7 for me. No issues with it whatsoever. But we move along to the fights that were announced just today at strawweight. We have some Contenders Series alum. At least one of them. At least one of them as Bruna Brazil. Great name. Sounds like that sounds like a nickname. Versus Denise Gomez has been added to the April 15th fight night. Location to be determined there. Apologies, guys. Man, it's very tired today. So yeah, this fight, obviously prospect battle here. Gomez, you remember from just a one Invicta fight she had, then the UFC debut the last time out. I'm forgetting who it was she fought, but looked pretty solid from what I'm remembering. Bruna Brazil. I'm blanking a little bit on how her Contender Series fight went and whatnot, but you can't really complain about this one. Perfectly prospect put together, if you can make up some kind of phrase like that. I will do it. And yeah, I mean, both very new to the UFC and the division, working their way up, trying to plant the flags a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There's really nothing wrong to say with that one either. But as we're still learning about them, it's about a 5. It's about a 5 for me. Completely fine. Obviously, no issues there, but not super excited about it. But I'm not gonna not watch it. Of course, I'm always gonna watch it. But yeah, it is what it is. It's just a totally fine matchmaking matchup. Look at me making up some very clever terms here, and that is sarcasm, if you were unaware. But we move on to the last fight now. And this one's pretty interesting. My goodness, kind of a very tough rebound here for Super Melly Melissa Martinez as she's taking on Yasmin Lucindo, the other Yasmin, if you will. She's set to come back at the April, what is this? My ticker's covered. The 22nd, April 22 fight night. Location to be determined once again. So yeah, as you will remember, Super Melly at a time was one of the brighter strawweight prospects in the whole division. Undefeated. Completely robbed Desiree Yanez in her last Combate fight. Took about 3 years off. Makes her UFC debut. Loses to Elise Reed, right? So that's who it was. And then trying to get back and be active again, which is good. You love to see that. She's turning around at this clip. Obviously not a super quick turnaround, but she's getting back in there quicker than compared to her last gap. But she has Yasmin Lucindo in her way, which that's a tough ask, as Yasmin looks to be one of those fighters who we're going to see sticking around for quite a while, unless she gets crazy exposed in some way. But from what we've seen so far, and especially obviously the Battle of the Yasmins, one of the best of 2022, gonna be hard not to think she's gonna do pretty well in this one, even if it in defeat, if Melly can, find a way to stifle her. But you can't not be excited to see how Lucindo comes back after that fight against Yaraguay. So I'm very excited for that. And to see if Melly can rebound with this tough matchup after a very disappointing first career official loss. Because again, she robbed the hell out of Desiree Yanez. If you have never seen that fight, pretty insane stuff. But either way, that's obviously not her fault. That's on the judges. But yeah, I like this one. I'm into it. Makes sense. They're both coming off losses in UFC debuts, but I think we see who's better at the moment. So fascinated, very fascinated by that one. That's a great prospect clash if I've ever seen one. So I think that is. Well, you know what? The first instinct rating, I think that's the one to go with, right? I was gonna throw an 8 out there because there's a lot of elements to this one. But mostly I'm obviously mostly excited to see Lucindo back after the Yasmin battle, as I think that most of us will be. But for Melly to try and get back to what she was before the layoff, I guess, before the Yanez fight. Again, I'll go back to that one again. But yeah, I think this is a very fun, fine matchmaking and stylistic matchup. So there you have it, everybody. That is the news for the week. Lots of intrigue. I'm fine with all those. There was nothing below a 5, which is what you always want to see. So I know that we had some rough ones the last couple weeks, but what do we got? How are we feeling, you guys? Barton, how is it going? Says, hello. Seems like my question was redacted. I did not see. First time I've seen you today here, Barton. But I ask, so when the UFC goes to the UK, do they make favorable matchups for the UK fighters? I mean, they certainly have before. If you remember, obviously, Molly versus Hannah Goldie last year. I don't think they always do. And you could argue Patty's fights as well. But, I mean, yeah, there are some cases with, it's not just British people, but every country's place that will happen sometimes. I wouldn't say it's a recurring thing. But Central says, do I like to study fighters' habits like Ghost Boy does? Of course. I mean, when I have time, I don't do it as much as him. I think that's definitely safe to say. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very important way of, studying and analyzing fighters for sure, is looking at the things that they do frequently and that they do well. Therefore, a habit. So James says, I didn't answer his question. Why are we using the term idea a lot nowadays? Oh, I must have missed that. I don't know. I mean, ideas are everywhere. We use them every day, James. So I don't know. Have we done it more? I'm not sure. Go says, I like right after he says that, Go says, I like Norma's ideas. Problem is her low output. That is true. She has not been, her volume has kind of dipped a little bit the last couple of fights. Amara says, Norma is great, but I think she's a little too big for bantamweight. Her legs and thighs are so big and muscular, which makes it even harder to cut down. True. That is true, but it's possible. Again, like I said, plenty of time for this one. And her issue has been the UFC has just been tug of warring with her. Like if they would just make up their mind and let her commit to it, I think she'd be fine. Obviously, it's been a problem so far to get down there, but she has fought at bantamweight in her career. So Go says, if she was in a good division and had high output, the stuff that Norma does is actually awesome for sure. The old Sonda background there. James says, why is Watterson billed as the striker? I have reviewed her Invicta fight. She's an awesome scrambly armbarring wrestler. Yeah, very true. Her striking is not good because she hits air most of the time. A lot of feints, whole shitload of feints from Watterson. That has definitely been the case. But so, they will set up some good strikes every now and then, occasionally, some good side kicks and push kicks that she does have. Never really had any spectacular punches or anything like that, but yeah, no, her grappling is definitely far superior. I think it's probably just the nickname, James, like the karate background with the karate hottie nickname has kind of led a lot of people, even though I feel like no one has ever really, anyone who's known about Waterson has never thought her striking is better than her grappling. You know what I mean? Like casuals maybe got confused, blinded by that, but I have never considered her a better striker. Cintro says Waterson took down Lemos pretty easily. Why not just grind Luana out? And I don't want to hear it's Lemos jumping Gillies is not a takedown defense. Yeah, that's a submission offense, right? But I think because of Luana's judo, it'll be a little bit more difficult. And I don't think Waterson just isn't much of a grinder anyway. She will be looking for submissions and good positions when she goes for any grappling engagements anyway. So it'll be tricky. That's where the fight's most interesting, for sure, is in the grappling. As Rio says, Denise Gomez, didn't she just lose to Loma, and Loma was training with Wei Li and Kanako at the time? We knew that was going to happen. Was that wasn't who Loma just beat, was it? I got to look it up now. I feel like Loma beat somebody else, right? Am I completely blanking on this? Let me see here. Oh, no, you were right. Okay, for some reason I didn't. Okay, that completely rings a bell now. All right, I remember that now. Thank you for pointing that out, Rio. Yeah, no, makes sense. So Bruno Brazil can try and replicate a similar game plan there. Would be a good idea. And Mayor says Luana is an amazing judoka. She's pretty darn good. Michelle should use her speed, keep her distance, and pick her apart. That would probably be the wisest choice there. Okay, Calvin, I'm going to give you a warning here because you are just making shit up. You're making shit up there now. So don't do that. I was there. I heard what Pat said, and that is not what he said. And I love Pat. Do not try and put me against my friends or something like that. So I will not tolerate any of that. Rio says, besides the striking, is Lucindo any good on the ground? I don't really remember. I know I looked at some of her fights before she got to the obviously before she debuted, and I remember seeing some grappling, but it wasn't anything memorable enough, obviously. So I can't quite answer that just yet. Spartan says, my apologies. No, you're good, Barton. Totally fair, man. Happy to have you and help you however I can. Trying to consume as much media and ask questions. No, you look fine, man. There's no stupid questions here. All welcome. I mean, I'm to an extent, but yes, all questions are good questions as long as they're not clearly trolling or offensive. So yes. James says, like Ghost is always saying, tactical ideas. Very true. Ghost says, to build on James Waterson's thing, those are not feints. You don't feint when you are way too out of range. You feint at the edge of range, not out of it. Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, I don't know what we'd call them then. Fake feints, I guess. Makoto says, Drake is the man at SCMP. I thought I'd never see you there. I like the time you and Presno were there. Cool people. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I obviously used to work at SCMP before we got here now at WMMAnia, and always been good times. Always has been good times there. Never a bad thing to say about the SCMP crew, that's for sure. So, all right, you guys, perfect timing here. Look at this time management that we've had these last couple shows. As we get to the previews now, right at the hour mark, Invicta FC 51 is going down tomorrow, the very first event for the promotion of the new year, taking place in Colorado. Thankfully not Missouri, even though Colorado still made some bonehead moves the last time they were there. I think it's just something about Invicta. I don't know why they get the worst judges. You know how it goes. But Makoto says, "Didn't I say I might never go back to SCMP due to your new job?" I mean, I think I probably said it was likely, you know. But I mean, for obviously those shows, like they're just guest appearances, right? Like I'm free to go and do that kind of stuff, but you won't see any interviews from me there or anything like that. You know, most likely never again, but never say never. So yeah, everything's all good here, so I don't need to worry about that. But yeah, again, no hard feelings or whatsoever. Obviously, we're all on good terms, but yeah. Oh, okay. We talked about it in the past, Dakota. It's been a while. A lot has happened in the last year and in so much time. So apologies if I forget things every now and then. Got a lot going on, you guys. But all right, let's look at it. Invicta FC 51. Tennant versus Bernardo, which is obviously the main event, the focus of the night. But we have two title fights here going down. Bantamweights colliding, and the vacant flyweight championship after Karina Rodriguez got signed to Bellator. They need a new champ. So it's going to be Christina Williams or Ketlin Souza. Also on the card, though, we have a past guest of the show, not WMMAnia, but back in the WMA Today version. Serena De Jesus takes on Olga Rubin. You got to think Serena wins that one. She's getting her title shot. Arguably should be getting it already. She was very upset she didn't get it the last time out. Claire Guthrie is back. She's taking on Autumn Norton. That's a good one there. Master Valencia versus Alessandra Ferreira. Katie Saul's back against Rayon Amanda. Laura Gallardo, Fatima Klein. Tanya Nijar versus Sayuri Cannon, 115. So this feels like a lot more fights than usual for Invicta. It's 8. So that's normal. Just, I don't know. Did that not look like more fights than we're usually getting for Invicta? I don't know. Something about that seemed like more, but it's not. So obviously, the top 4 here are the big ones to focus on, but all of these should actually be pretty good. Not familiar with the opening people here, but newcomers, of course, 1-0 versus 2-0. Fatima Klein, we've seen her before, as well as Gallardo. All familiar faces if you watch Invicta regularly outside of that. Even though Ferreira, she's making her debut, I know that much. But anyway, let's go kind of top to bottom as we generally do from these full Invicta card previews, which I know that's not the order I do for the regular shows, but that's just how we do it here. So Tennant versus Bernardo. Bernardo has gotten back on track and managed to get into a title position, which is kind of crazy considering the UFC run was very not great for her. I think not much has changed, though. Obviously, she's made... Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry, guys. Always hits me just so randomly. Some minimal changes here and there, but still what she's best at is her grappling, her jiu-jitsu. That's the bread and butter, if you will. Whereas Tanisha Tennant, solid boxing, sharp on the feet, moves pretty well, still growing into, a fighter to a champion, I guess you could say. Like, this is a very valuable experience for her to be gaining, and obviously went the full 5 with Olga the last time out to defend the title. But yeah, I mean, she puts things together well. She's going to have the edge here on the feet. This is going to be pretty striker versus grappler, I think. Like, think it reminds me a little bit of Jingnan a much lower version of Jingnan versus Ayaka Miura a little bit, where the challenger is very clearly going to be needing. I guess you could even say Nicolini against Jingnan. The challenger is very clearly going to be needing to get the fight to the ground to have any chance of winning, probably. I hate to say that, but that's just kind of the truth here. So I expect Tennant to kind of pick her apart, chip away over the course of 5 rounds, maybe even find a finish somewhere in the middle if I was to lean towards a prediction, which I'm not exactly doing, but essentially Bernardo needs to close that distance every chance she can, try and get Tennant to the ground. And Tennant's got some long limbs, so she can grab a hold of him, maybe whip out a submission. Who knows? And in the co-main event, Christina Williams and Ketlin Souza, I feel situation is a little bit similar there. Christina Williams obviously has the kickboxing background. She has some pretty, her kicks are very nice. She puts things together pretty well with her strikes. But we've seen her get out-grappled at times. Her takedown defense and grappling defense is maybe a little bit worse than, let's say, I don't know. If you were to compare the matchups, Tennant then. And Souza, she can strike better than Talita as well. Not that she is very superior or sharp there just yet in her career either, but kind of the key to taking out Christina Williams is not letting her kind of dictate the pace, make her uncomfortable as well. And as great as the last win was for her, it was kind of came to her. She capitalized on it brilliantly, but it wasn't necessarily out of her own doing. So, and Serena versus Olga Rubin, that's going to be a pretty crazy one. I think that has potential to be fight of the night. Serena always brings it, always in your face, nonstop, pedal to the metal. Olga Rubin, going to be, she's a big bantamweight. She fought at featherweights clearly in the in Bellator. Big bad. She's big bad for a reason. Big bad Olga Rubin. But Serena's on a roll right now. She's surging. So if she kind of can just go out there, she's one of those fighters where you got to really, really, it's tough to put away. I don't know if Serena's ever been finished. Olga's gonna have her work cut out for her, but she has the experience edge. Obviously, fought better competition. Yada yada. But momentum is a big deal as well. So, and then Claire Guthrie versus Adam Norton. I mean, we kind of know what we get out of Guthrie at this point. Very strong wrestling game. That's typically the approach to every fight. If you can stop that, you're going to have a better chance. But only one person has been able to do it so far, 4-1, right? And then we saw, how her Ultimate Fighter run went as well. Mr. Valencia versus Ferreira at atomweight. Always love to see the atomweight fights. Katie Saul, Amanda, Klein, Gallardo. So yeah, I won't get too much into those ones, but I think this card has potential to kind of, it's a great kick. It's a pretty good kickoff for 2023, actually. So looking at it here now, I'm feeling pretty good, pretty excited. Hopefully, fingers crossed, no weight issues today. Hopefully there hasn't been yet. I haven't seen any news here. Let me see if I can check the Invicta website. I know sometimes they're a little bit slow, but if we can, let's see that we haven't missed anything. Let's do our due diligence here, as they say, right? Make sure everybody's on weight, especially those title fighters, if you will. If the website will load for me. Wow, it's still talking about Invicta 50. So out of date. Jeez. Yeah, they gotta get somebody on the website to keep it up to date better, because that is not good. Anyway, Jimmy says, speaking of Invicta, do you and Ghost think Izawa would run through our friend Jilly Bean? I don't think she would run through her, but as I said, I think, was it after Seka's win? that Seka would win, and she should rightfully be favored. Run through though, I don't think so. I mean, you can't really. It's you can't say that about Jillian anymore. After her last year, she has proven that she's not one to be ran through. And Ghost says that Jillian would give Izawa trouble in a lot of ways just because she's exposed to the MMA ground meta since she's training with UFC fighters all the time. There you go. Yeah, the rule set would be big for their fights. What Izawa does is give up a ton of positions to hunt for subs. It's a cool style, but the MMA meta, like wall installing, wall walking, keeping good positions is the best. All right. So we got Ghost answer for Drake. Would Jillian go to Ryzen or would Izawa have to go to Invicta? Which belt would be on the line? Both? No, they would never do both on the line. It would have to be like they fight one place and then they fight the other one for both. 2 fights to have 2 title fights. They would both go in each direction. I think they're willing to do either. I mean, they've both said that to me. But what is more likely and what is the best option? Obviously, Ryzen is the best option there in terms of, exposure, bigger platform, all that good stuff. And I think it'd probably be more likely too. I feel like even though Sayaka is fine with going over there and she's willing to do it, come here and fight in Invicta, I feel like Ryzen and Deep probably wouldn't want to let her just because she's the, I hate to use this term and stuff, but she's the A side, she's the number one. So I think they would feel like, all right, well, we're going to have it over here. Like it's a bigger fight for them. It would be kind of, I could see them thinking of it as a waste to have it in Invicta, even though it wouldn't be. But in terms of business wise, it would be wasteful in comparison. You know what I mean? But that's why you could just do both then. Just do the Ryzen one first and then Invicta. But yeah. So James says, what does the term Invicta mean? Like Bellator, like Gladiator, does Invicta have a meaning? It's a watch, isn't it? No, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Rio says, would Drake do commentary for Invicta? I think you would be great. Well, I greatly appreciate that. That's an interesting, definitely better than Big John, he says. I've thought about like if I ever was to get a commentator offer before, like what would I want to do it? How would I feel about that? I don't know. I think I would much more be inclined to do color, but I probably wouldn't get offered that. I don't know. I would need to like have that right in front of me to really think about it, but it'd be hard to say no to, you know what I mean? So maybe. It's a very strong maybe there. Yeah. Well, I again greatly appreciate it, Rio, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It feels like a lot of pressure, and people always say it's harder than than they think it is. So, but hey, opportunity's opportunity. If it comes a knocking, we'll see. We'll see. I won't hold my breath on that one though, since I've never done it, aside from online and the fight companion aspect. But all right, you guys, let's get on to UFC 283 now. We'll preview this, close out the show. This Saturday, we are back in Rio. Not our commenter here, our good friend in the chat, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for the first pay-per-view event of the UFC calendar. We have 2 fights going down amongst female fighters. And we will kick things off with, I already mentioned featherweight. We're going back to featherweight with Josiane Nunes versus Zara Ferran dos Santos. This is happening. And I remember when this fight was announced, that, first of all, I don't know why they put this together because Josiane has clearly made bantamweight before. And what her last fight at bantamweight? Let me see here as we get rolling. Let's look at the stats as we do. Before I go on my tangent, the Ramona fight was not, but the Bea Malecki one was, right? Either way, Josiane Nunes, she's 5'2". She's made bantamweight, all right? Rightfully a minus 450 favorite. 29-36. Here's where it's hilarious, though. Like, I think this fight was purely made, and I think that that's what they've been doing with Josiane. They gave her Bea Malecki in the debut, right? Ramona, that's fine afterwards. But they give her Bea and Zara. She's like one of the shortest fighters on the roster, obviously, but fighting in these divisions. I feel like Sean Shelby is just completely doing this he's making these fights out of his own amusement just to see how aesthetically funny they look. Like, that's what it feels like to me, because this is a bit of a waste of time for Nunes, who obviously packs a boatload of power into that tiny frame. And for Zara Farron, like, man, it's been quite the saga for her so far in her UFC career. So 5 years ago was her last win against Isabella Badurek, who has fought at flyweight before. I believe she's probably currently fighting there. Don't know what she's up to these days, but she was in the UFC at one point. It's been 5 years since Zara Farron last won a goddamn fight. And then she gets in the UFC, faces Megan Anderson, gets triangled by Megan 3 years ago now. Holy shit. One of the best featherweights in the world. And then after that, they give her another one of the best featherweights in the world, Felicia Spencer, because there's no one else in the division for her to fight around her level. So she gets destroyed by her 2 years and 9 months ago. Haven't seen her since. She was supposed to fight, I forget who she was supposed to fight since that time, but Zara Farron finally getting a step down in competition against Nunes. But she's still most likely going to get destroyed because she hasn't fought in so long. And quite frankly, Zara Farron just, like, is very slow, doesn't quite do very much well anymore at this stage. I mean, if we're going to be completely honest, she is a striker. That has been made apparent if you've seen her fight. I believe she has a kickboxing background, but 36 now. You got to think job's on the line here. She'd be 0-3 if she loses, and this lack of activity is wild. Whereas Nunes is surging, and put away Malecki with a phenomenal knockout. Of course, it was more Malecki kind of came into that, yada yada, but thumped away on Ramona. Sad for the Ramona fans out there, but she somehow survived, and Nunes looked pretty solid in that one. Brute force, obviously not a lot of technique to her or to either of these fighters, but the fact that Nunes is so powerful is essentially all you need in this one. This is essentially all that this fight will come down to, unless Farron has completely changed her game to some insane degree since we last saw her, but I would not bank on that. And here we go with our Tapology predictions. 95%, a whopping 95 for Nunes. Yeah, I don't see an issue there. That doesn't really surprise me. Very bold 5% from the Farron voters, to be honest. And what do we got? 15 by knockout. 15% of 5%. That's got to be around one person, right? No, I don't know. Not great at math, but most people expecting the knockout from Nunes here, as I would too. Not making an official prediction. But yeah, this fight is It's just gonna look hilarious. That's the whole thing about it. I think that's why they made it. It's gonna look real silly. It's gonna look goofy. That's all there is about it. That's all there is. Oh, yes, good point, Jimmy. Hio. Yes, Hio de Janeiro. Hio. Hio Sozen Truesdale. Cinder says Drake and Ghost. Are you a fan of Josiane Nunes' style of fighting? Um, a fan? Not really, but am I entertained by her? I guess I have been in the last couple fights. Yeah, I mean, whenever you see somebody who can kind of packs a bit of a wallop like she does, it's generally pretty entertaining. Not, I don't foresee her going very far or anything, but that's an X factor that always, if it lands, yeah. Jamie says predatory, manipulative, or just matchmakers being nonsensical for Nunes here. I think they're, like I said, they're just goofing. They are just having a good old goof. Oh my goodness. Okay. I've had enough. This is too funny to me though. Calvin, you want your 5 seconds of fame. I'm going to give it to you cuz it's just blatantly hilarious to me. So I'm going to put this up for you. Here is the stance. Capitalizing my name here. Whatever fight Zhang accepts, so whoever the UFC offers her to be the next title defense, you're going to pick against her and say that she is ducking the other competitors. Example, if she fights Lemos, I will say she's ducking Rose. If she fights Rose, you'll say she's ducking Lemos. All right. Whoop-de-doo. What's the point of saying that? If she fights Rose, yeah, exactly. If Zhang wins either of those fights, not to be a lady Rose. Like, can you be any less obvious, man? I gave you a good chance. I did. I wanted to. I told you not to try and derail the show. You blocked everybody and still tried to do it to me. That was just funny, though. That's why I wanted to put that up, because I think that was just hilarious. Like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve there. So no matter what, they're ducking. All right, I guess I literally have to beat everybody in the entire division to not be ducking. Then let's fight them all on the same night. But even then, if they win, that was funny. That was funny. He says I like the Brazilian accent better than Dern's. Thank you, thank you. I try. Some people have issues, you guys. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand it. So I don't know what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve with that? If you're trying to achieve the block, then congrats, you got it. You got the old blocker. But I don't know. I don't know. I just scratch my head at that kind of thing. Anyway, let's close out the show now with the last fight that we'll talk about and preview here. At flyweight, Jessica Andrade is taking on Lauren Murphy. Flyweight division. I almost just showed my email there. It's up there, Rio. It's up there. But the funny thing is, like, I feel like it can't be serious. It can't be serious. So, like, if it was a real genuine take, then I'd say probably. But these guys are just all such trolls. Makoto, it's because he blocked everybody. He specifically told me he blocked every one of you guys. So he was simply just trolling to me, trying to derail the show for the last couple weeks. But he threw a good enough joke at us right there that I'll give him his ban hammer, his wish. You want that? You got it, man. There you go. I'll put you out of your misery. I've had enough of it. It distracts me too much. If I had, I don't know. I don't know. Talking about it too much already. So Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. Big fight at flyweight, obviously. 2 former title challengers. A former champion at strawweight, Bate Estaca. is the minus 460 favorite. Holy shit, to the plus 370 underdog of Lauren Murphy. Big time odds going down there. 31 to 39. I didn't realize Lauren was 39 now. Crazy. 5-1 versus 5-5, 62 to 68. Lucky Lauren Murphy rebounded with that Miesha Tate win last time out. Looked very solid in that one. She did. And obviously Andrade has looked exceptional since then, destroyed Calvillo and then Lemos after the Shevchenko losses. So both of them have looked really good since their Valentina losses. I think Jessica should definitely be favored in this one, but those are some big odds, man. I don't know about that big. Lauren Murphy, incredibly durable, one of the toughest fighters at bantamweight, flyweights, whenever she's been in there. Only been finished by Valentina in her career. Obviously, if someone's going to finish you out of your opponents, Jessica Andrade is one of the people that could do it. This fight could have happened at bantamweight years ago, which is pretty funny to think about. Instead, we're getting it here right now, this Saturday. Jessica Andrade, we know what she typically likes to do, get in your face. What is it? The old tank style, I like to call it. Pile driver for a reason. Pick you up, throw you down if she can, even though she has gotten more calculated, a little bit more reserved since just over the years, really. But in this matchup, I'm not quite sure what approach she would go with. Lauren Murphy, I think she will be best fit to try and maybe try and out wrestle Jessica. I mean, as we saw, Valentina did that just fine. Lauren will have, of course, everybody has the length advantages on Jessica. Size advantage, frame-wise, again. But Andrade, she's compact big. You know what I mean? Like, it feels weird to say that, sometimes feels weird to say someone's going to be bigger than her because she's just so physical and strong all the time. Like, it doesn't really matter. But Lauren, I think, obviously, you could say is bigger, but it feels like it's not a thing to highlight because it doesn't matter for Jessica Andrade. Obviously, she'll do what she does, and she'll do it damn well most of the time. And obviously, she's finding these. She's showing us new shit every time we see her. Most of the time, standing arm triangle the last time out, crazy. If she could hit that on Lemos, Lemos is probably about the same height as Lauren Murphy. Not to say she'll do it again, but she could try. She could try. I just think in this one, I mean, Lauren Murphy is one of those fighters who likes to make fights ugly, grind you out if she can, get in your face. Again, abuse her wrestling upon you more often than not. So she will definitely want to do that because otherwise Andrade will, dictate, put the pressure on, and do what she does best, thump away to seek out that finish there. So this could be kind of a really ugly in the sense of them really trying to battle for positions against the cage or in the grappling department. I think that will firmly depend on if Lauren is able to initiate first. If she's able to initiate her takedowns first and foremost, maybe clinch exchanges with Jessica. Otherwise, if she can't, she's going to be beat up and working from behind like most of the fight. I struggle to see. I do, even though Jessica is, a consummate finisher. I struggle to see Lauren Murphy being finished by Jessica. If anyone again is going to do it, and at this stage in her career, she should have no trouble. She really shouldn't. But so if there was going to be a finish from somebody, I think it would be Jessica for sure. But it's a pretty interesting matchup when you really kind of dive into it. And again, a 95 from the Tapology crew. My goodness, that is stunning. And they are all on board with the knockout. How about that? I mean, wouldn't surprise me, but I can see this one being a decision. that wouldn't be a shock to me. So we will see how it plays out, but I'm intrigued. I am intrigued, and I'll I'll talk about it a little bit more, of course, when I preview the event tomorrow. Okay, Jimmy, that's silly. This guy says, Andrade is not a puzzle. She cannot stop you from strafing around the ring, but can Murphy circle out and use her long weapons? That's a pretty big question. Not so sure. James says, if Jessica wins, does she get a shot against Weili at 115? I am up for the tune-up fight for Weili in China again. That would be interesting if they rematched in China. That would be kind of funny how that would come around like that. I mean, that's what she wants. Will it happen? I don't know. I guess timing wise, that really could work out, which then what do you do in the meantime? Like between you have Lemos, Xiaonan, and Rose. I mean, I guess Rose is kind of a question mark all the time, isn't she? They have to be matched up somehow. If Andrade was to jump over, skip, which I guess would be fair, but I don't know. I'm not sure if that would happen, James, if she will be next with a win, but that's what she wants. So she will try to get it, I'm sure. Go says, what approach for Andrade? Her entries are still the same and obvious. She just attacks less. That doesn't make someone more reserved. Well, I mean, if they attack less, then that's less aggression, so more reservation, right? But I think that's fair. If Andrade had new coaches or has done something different, I'd agree, but Andrade hasn't changed anything. All right. Sintro asked, do I like Jessica Andrade's fighting style? Yes, I do. I mean, I mean, whenever somebody is as diverse, at least in their finishing ability, and as exciting as she is, I mean, Jessica Andrade is one of the most exciting fighters, female fighters of all time, for sure. Yeah, I've always been a pretty big fan of hers. Technically, no, she's never been the most technical fighter, and I think that's blatantly obvious. She's just been a powerhouse, you know. Maybe says her entries are still the same. The same people would still beat her. The same people would still beat her. Valentina, yeah. Rose, I mean, if there were 5 rounds in that fight, that would have been interesting. Joanna, I don't think Joanna beats her now. If they were to rematch now, obviously I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, but yeah, that's fair for the most part. I think it would depend on some people, but she hasn't done a whole lot of losing lately. The Weili fight, obviously, I'd still favor Weili in that one, but I think, again, we've talked about it. I think it would be better and closer in the first fight, which isn't saying much, which is not saying much. Nah, I don't think Weili. I don't think Joanna beats her. No, definitely not. Especially with the chin deteriorating. Like, let's say they fought next for some reason. Joanna's takedown defense has gotten. Well, I mean, it's still great, but I think Jessica Andrade would approach that differently, obviously. And if you're obviously just to look at the Rose rematch, made some adjustments there, maybe a little bit too late, but yeah. Anyway, she has to worry about Lauren Murphy first, so it doesn't matter, and Joanna's retired. So that is that. That is UFC 283. You guys, first of 2023 for the pay-per-view schedule, 2 title fights going down, flyweight, light heavyweight. My goodness, what a saga it's been the last 2 months, right? But either way, we have UFC action. That we do. But that'll do it for the show today, you guys. We went over 4 minutes, as you know, we typically do every now and then, but that is all right. Appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Don't forget, you can visit WMMAnia.com for all your MMA needs. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the video. Follow us. Hit that notification bell. You don't miss a gosh darn thing when we're going live. I don't know if it notifies you when videos are released, but it's a notifier. At least it should be. So go ahead and do it. Hit that like button too. As for any shameless plugs, here at the end, nothing new specifically. Diana Avsaragova was the last person chatted with. She's fighting in Bellator 290, of course. Sarah McMahon recently. Rin Nakai, who has a fight coming up, her title fights next month. Then Broughton Horizon episode 23 is underway. We will be getting that out here soon enough. But yeah, that about does it. As Bill Hendricks comes in here late asking what are my thoughts on Charles Johnson. Don't really have any. Honestly, he's fine. He's a fine guy. So, yes. And Ghost, I never said it was a fluke. I never said it was a fluke. Definitely not. So, I feel like you guys think I go in like these crazy directions sometimes, but I'm not one of those guys who says that stuff. And unless I blatantly say it, so. But anyway, got to get out of here. So I will see you guys same time next week, 12 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays, every Tuesday live here on the channel. Enjoy the weekend of action. Enjoy Invicta tomorrow. If you plan on watching, we will be talking about it, recapping it on the show. But until then, stay safe and stay sane, everybody. Enjoy the week and go Jags. If you missed that comeback and you're not a football fan, check it out because it was crazy. Trying to get to the championship this week. I will be all about that. All right, you guys. Later.